one of the rules we kind of have is don't write to an ending. So, which I actually think is a great rule, because if you get excited about an ending and then you start writing from the beginning and organically you're feeling you should go left, but the ending you're writing to is go right, you miss that opportunity to be like, no, this feels correct to go left.
This is the Act One podcast. I'm your host, James Duke. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy our podcast, we would appreciate it if you subscribed and left us a good review. Our guest today is screenwriter Jeremy Howe. Jeremy is a writer-producer on the CBS comedy Young Sheldon. Before that, he was a writer-producer on The Big Bang Theory. I spoke with Jeremy last summer. He was actually the first person I interviewed for the podcast. And since he was the first, there were unfortunately a lot of technical issues. But we were able to repair most of the recording. Jeremy and I have been friends for years, and he's got one of the biggest hearts in this business, so I'm excited for you to hear from him today. Jeremy Howe, thanks for joining me.
Hello, thank you.
It's a little crazy right now. Thanks for joining me in the midst of this craziness.
Of course.
You are currently on hiatus. Is that, or you're about to go on hiatus?
Yeah, no, this is a scheduled hiatus that is lining up. So we were scheduled to go on hiatus. We were done with the writing kind of in the beginning of March, and we were shooting the finale, but we got shut down like everything else did a few days into it. And so technically my hiatus started earlier, like a week earlier. So I am on hiatus. The plan is to go back June, like early June is when we typically go back, but nobody knows if that will be the case. Everything's up in the air. So I think everyone, especially in the entertainment industry, is just kind of holding their breath, seeing what will happen.
So a typical hiatus for a network show like that you're on, it's 2 months? You kind of described 2 months. You get April and May mostly?
I mean, it's different. I think back in the day when most shows were network TV and on a typical schedule and people did 22 episodes, the writers would kind of work from June until February or March, depending on the production schedule of the show. And some shows went later, some shows ended earlier, but when I was on The Big Bang Theory, excuse me, we would shoot 24 episodes, and
you're getting emotional about this.
I
get so emotional.
Wistful days, The Big Bang Theory, but we would do 24 episodes, and a typical multi-camera episode TV show does a production schedule. You shoot 3 episodes in a row, which is 3 weeks, 1 episode per week, and then production takes a week off so the writers can keep writing and catch up. So that's a typical schedule. But on The Big Bang Theory, and we got this because of Chuck Lorre's busy schedule, that we got 2 weeks in a row, 1 week off, 2 weeks in a row, 1 week off, which gave us more weeks to write, but it made our season longer. So by the time we did the last season of The Big Bang Theory, we ended the last day of April last year. And then we were back, those of us who started up on Young Sheldon started up beginning of June. So we got 1 month. And then, so this year scheduled, it was going to be 2 months, which is, more than we've had for a while. But that is, I'd say 2 months is about the typical hiatus for shows. Okay. But now with all the streaming, people are doing 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 13 episodes. So it's, now everything's kind of different. But for that typical old school network, 22, 24 episode, that's about normal.
How many episodes into it before they start filming? How far ahead do they let you get? Are you 3 or 4 episodes written before they start filming the first one?
I mean, we have, if we can get 5, that's great. I think we, this season 3 of Young Sheldon, I think we had 5 scripts and kind of had an idea for 6, and that is like a really good cushion to be that far ahead. If you have 3, you're wishing you had more before you started to shoot. But if you can get 4 or 5, you're in good shape.
What's the craziest schedule you guys ever had? Have you ever been in that situation where you're writing pages the night before they're filming it, or on the day they're filming it? Has it been that crazy? It
was, I think, season 2 of Young Sheldon, I think it got a little crazy at the end, but there are a few of us who were doing both shows, both Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon at that time. So I wasn't at Young Sheldon full time for that to be a part of it. But I know we have, so the production of a multi-camera, like the Big Bang Theory, is the production week starts with a table read. So you're not shooting the next day, but we have frequently finished the script on a Tuesday, and the table read is Wednesday, and sometimes it will air like 2 Thursdays later. So we'll finish it up Tuesday, and then 9 days later, or like, I forget the time, but I know if we shoot on, because we shot Tuesday nights, and then it would air like 2 Thursdays after that or something. So
the actors would get about 5 days to learn their lines?
Yeah, so they would get it the Tuesday night, which if it was a tape night, they would, after filming an episode in front of an audience, they would then get the script and go home and read it, and then do the table read the next day, which was Wednesday, and then we would rewrite after the table read. Then Thursday was a producer's run through, and then we would see it and then do another rewrite, and by the time later in the run of the show, we skipped Fridays, but typically Fridays and the studio network run through, and then we do another rewrite, and then Monday is pre-shooting episodes that didn't quite work in front of they're either too complicated, or if it was a car scene with a blue screen behind it. We did those on Mondays without an audience, and then on Tuesday we would do it in front of an audience, and then play back and show them the scenes we shot on Monday. They would see the full episode in order, but it was interspersed with live and then pre-tape. But most of it's live in front of them.
So the actors, that's probably a skill set that a lot of actors don't realize if they want to do a lot of television. They have to really be able to get their lines down quickly.
Yeah, you have to learn it fast, and this is the crazy thing. And our cast on The Big Bang Theory was phenomenal at this. Is if a joke didn't work in front of the audience, we would on the fly come up with another one and give it to them. And sometimes it wasn't just like, oh, this new joke. It would be like half this page is now new. And they would kind of walk around for a few minutes and work it out, and then they would do it in front, like a few minutes later. And I mean, it's incredible. If you memorize these giant paragraph, and then we're like, take the middle sentence out, and then here's another thing at the end, and then I honestly don't know how they did it. That's just a complete skill set that is foreign to me. But they're very good at it.
That you can see that, just as an audience member, you can see that with shows like Big Bang Theory or Friends or some of those. When after the show's been on for a while, you can see the rhythm that some of those actors get into, where that you could just hand them any kind of material because they know those characters so well at that point.
Yeah,
that they're able to just deliver those lines and those moments. And what's the challenge for you then as a writer to be on a long running show like The Big Bang Theory? Because I guess you're on Young Sheldon right now, and it's you just finished season 3.
Season 3, yeah.
And so that's different because you're still developing characters, you're still finding kind of nice moments for them and stuff. But Big Bang Theory was on for how long?
12 seasons.
12. So, by the time you get to seasons 9, 10, like, it's kind of like that old episode of South Park. Simpsons did it. So, like, that's a unique challenge that you would have as a writer, being on a show that lasted that long. How did you guys keep it fresh? What did you do to find those new moments for the characters?
That is the biggest challenge was just new stories, new story areas, things we hadn't done. Because when we ended up doing, I think the number's 279 episodes.
Wow.
And so it's how do we not repeat something we've already done? And even at the end, someone would pitch a joke and it would be really funny. And then one or two of us would kind of be like, that sounds familiar, I think. And then we'd have to Google it and we'd be like, yeah, we did it in season 6. Like,
wow. You would keep track, like, and you would just keep track just by Googling it, or would
we were all, so I was there since season 4, and a lot of the staff was there before me. And we've all seen every episode at least once, even if we weren't there for those seasons. But yeah, there were just something something would click in your mind. It just sound, I don't know, you're kind of like, oh shoot, I think we did that. And then we would look it up, and we fortunately our show was popular, and other shows
yes, fortunately.
we didn't have to have like a series Bible of our show necessarily to be like, what did this character say? Because honestly, Wikipedia did it for us.
All the fans online.
yeah, like, because there's like someone would kind of type out the script, like not in script format, but it was kind of like just a normal document, but it would be like what a character said. So if you Google Big Bang Theory, whatever the joke was, you could find it, and you could find it pretty easily. So but anyway, so that definitely was the biggest challenge of just keeping it fresh. And we lucked out almost halfway through with adding the Amy and the Bernadette characters, because it started with the 4 guys and Penny, and then adding those women, which the way that we work is we take it one episode at a time. So we don't really arc out a whole season. We take it one episode at a time. So when we cast Melissa Rauch, and I say we, that was even before I was there, but when the show cast them, it was really just for that. But once we got Melissa and Mayim, it was clear, like, oh, these are very, there's something here. And so, because they clicked so well, that really fed into a lot of new stories of, the Wall character, and Bernadette, and then eventually marriage. And then, later on when, we added children. And so that is kind of the typical, I think, sitcom formula, but like we did, because you do, when you're in season 10 and 11 and 12, you are you need to keep it, you need to add new things. So there's that old, they talk about that old TV trope, right, of adding the little kid all of a sudden shows up, the Leonardo DiCaprio in Growing Pains, whatever. Poochie in The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's right, Poochie. Talk a little bit about, for people who are listening and would love to know the process. I mean, you work for a legendary showrunner in Chuck Lorre. Mm-hmm. What's the process like? I mean, you and I have talked about this, when you have taught at Act One, you've talked about, Chuck does things differently, but, what's it like working for him? How does he run his shows? What's it like to be a writer for a Chuck Lorre show? What's the relationship between the writer in the writer's room and him as the showrunner?
So he is busy. He has a lot of shows.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, so the one thing that he does differently and is, and I don't know when this started, but we write everything together in the room. And that is different than any show that I'd worked on before as a writer's assistant or PA. And
You typically you would break the show together and then writers would go off and write them individually, right?
Yeah. So if an individual writer would go, or a writing team would go write an episode after you kind of come up with an outline, and even the writer, I think, would go maybe do the outline depending on what show you're on. But and then the script would come back, and then together as a group, you go through it, with the showrunner and as the writing staff, and you kind of flesh it out and make changes depending. And the showrunner is in charge, and you're kind of helping the showrunner write an episode of TV. Like, no matter what, like, even if you go off to write it, the showrunner will kind of change it to what he wants, and so that is the normal process of writing for TV. But we write everything in the room, so we will pitch stories to the showrunner, if it's Chuck, if it's Steve, depending when and where. And once the story is approved, or was kind of like, yeah, that's a good area, then we have to talk it out. And so we will come up with an outline, which is just on a whiteboard.
Let's go back to the pitch. How long of you say, so you have to pitch it to him? How long is that one meeting? Is that literally one meeting, or is that over the course of a day or two? Or
yeah, it's like, I mean, honestly, kind of a day, half a day. So everyone comes in with story ideas, and then we pitch them. And
are you pitching the A story, just like a or are you guys? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, kind of mainly just an A story, and then once we kind of latch on to one, then you're left with, okay, who's in the A story, and then which means who's not in the A story. So then it's like, okay, we need something for the characters who aren't in the A story, and that comes to the B story. Every once in a while, the A story involves everyone, and you can kind of get enough pages without a B story. It's harder because you don't have anything to cut away to. But we, so it's honestly, again, like, I think everything is step by step of, even when we pitch an episode, we don't really pitch the end of it, because it's, we enjoy the process of writing it together. Like, we will talk it out, and kind of get there together, as a group.
So can you think of like something you pitched, something from one of the episodes? I don't know if maybe it wasn't even the A story, but
right.
But can you think of like a memorable pitch maybe that you had or something?
Well, I mean, it's not a big one, but I know, and this is another way we pitch stories, it's stuff from our own life, is, so my wife knows my birthday most of the time. She gets it, she knows it's either the 21st or the 20th. And now we've been married 15 years, so she knows she knows it, but now. But she frequently would get it wrong. And so I had mentioned that in the writer's room, and it was always like, wouldn't it be funny if Penny didn't know Leonard's birthday? And so I think it was, I don't know if it was a Valentine's episode, I kind of forget, but I know we needed just a small story for Leonard and Penny. And so that kind of got mentioned again. And so we ended up doing it. And again, even then it's like, okay, great. She doesn't know his birthday. Then what? Like that's
right.
So we had to kind of come up with the complications for it after the fact. So that's just a small one, but
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and it was great because someone else, and the way we got into it is another one of our writers it was like, well, how do we get it out that she doesn't know? And she's unlocking his iPad. And she's like, what's the password? And he says, it's my birthday. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I tried it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so that was a great way to do it.
Yeah.
That was not my pitch, but it was a great way to deal it.
I'm not going to admit to that happening to me, but it's mostly with my kids' birthdays. Like I sometimes have to be reminded what day exactly.
Right.
So let's go back to, you were talking about the schedule. So so it would take, so you pitch. So I was asking you about what's it like to work, with Chuck Lorre. So you pitch it to him.
Yeah.
You said that takes about a half a day maybe, and then what? Then how does it work?
Yeah, and then we just start writing beats on the board of where the scene is, who's in the scene, and basically kind of couple sentences or one sentence even of what that scene is about. And then we just kind of go through it. Sometimes we go all the way to the end. Other times we get about halfway and they're like, you know what, let's start writing and we'll figure it out. And we can get away with that because we're writing everything in a room together.
Now how often would the showrunner, how often would Chuck be in the room when you were doing that?
So this was season 4 when I was the writer's assistant. I joined the show halfway through season 4. And he was at this point floating between 2.5 men in this. So we didn't have him all the time. So sometimes he was there for it, sometimes he wasn't, because he had another show. And then eventually Mike and Molly started. So so he was floating around to 3 shows, and so it just kind of was hit or miss. And then eventually this was with our other showrunner, Steve Milaro, who took over in season 6. And so we would be, and Steve was in the room all the time because he wasn't floating around. That was his show. So we would, we're just kind of walk it through with him, and kind of when and I think it's with any show, it's just we do it all in the room at once, all together the whole time. But you're basically, the showrunner is either like yes or no, and if it's no, then you keep pitching until it's like, yeah, great, that's a good next beat, or next scene. And then once we have the outline, it's honestly the same process, but now you're in the script. It's fade in, and if you look at the whiteboard, you're like, okay, great, we're in Leonard and Sheldon's apartment, and we know it's going to happen. But okay, how does the scene start? And we always typically start with what we call a downbeat, which is this is typically when they talk about either science or comic books or something unrelated to the story, which is it could be anything. So we're like, okay, great. Where are they sitting? Are they on the couch? Are they on the island? And what's a funny way to start, if it's the first scene, what's the funny way to start the episode? Are they coming in the apartment? So that's when all the logistics of it, and that's what we do line by line.
Wow. And so the writer's assistant is literally typing a script for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
wow.
That's a job I had. And so you have to know when things are just kind of getting pitched out and talked, and when you have to start typing it on the script. And, and otherwise you're taking all the notes as a writer's assistant of the things that, potential and possible ideas and stuff. So,
yeah. So from the time you pitched the story to the time that you finished writing that first draft was about 3 to 4 days?
From pitching it, I'd say about 5 or 6 days. Yeah. Okay. And then some took longer. Some were a little trickier to figure out, and some we just, we'd type fade in the morning, and by the end of the day we had 18 pages or something. That we could go really, really fast. And multicam, the formatting is different on the script, so it's actually like 40 pages is a typical number of pages in an episode, where single camera is 30. But we, in multicam we could write 18 sometimes.
Yeah. Right. Can you talk a little bit, because now you're on Young Sheldon, and you had an interesting transition there. You mentioned it earlier, how you got onto that show, because at one point you were you were writing for both shows.
Yeah. So the Young Sheldon started, 3 years ago. And I was interested in it because it's single camera, which I am more drawn to. And I knew I was kind of a good fit for that show because it's the mom goes to church. I grew up going to church. I was Sheldon and Missy's age in that time period in 1989, I think is when it started. I was the same age, and I now have kids that age. And there were just a lot of dynamics that I thought I would be a good fit for. But so it started, and I was I didn't go to work on it. There was talk of me going over there at the beginning, and it didn't happen. And I was actually ended up being very pleased with that. But then halfway through the first season, they needed some more writers, and there was myself and two other Big Bang Theory writers kind of started to go over and help them write some episodes. And it was an interesting process because we didn't quite know day to day where we would be, what show we'd be on. We just kind of get a text to be like, oh, come to the Young Sheldon stage to, kind of help write an episode.
Wow, you would literally just get a text in the morning.
Yeah, and so and sometimes halfway through the day, and so
that's not typically how.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely happened before, but I don't know to what extent or what the process was for those. And I think people did it like some 2.5 Men writers did did both Big Bang and 2.5 in the early years of that. So there definitely happened before Young Sheldon.
Does it kind of work that way because your showrunner Steve and Chuck, there's a little bit of a chemistry. They know kind of you guys' kind of pattern, and so it's like hey, we can bring these guys over. We know we can bang this stuff out and get it done because we have that kind of relationship with them. Was that something like that?
Yeah, there's definitely kind of a shorthand, and how they work, and they know how we work. So I think that definitely played a big part in it. Yeah. So that was the second half of the first season of Young Sheldon. There was a few of us doing it, and I think I helped write one or two or three. So most of the time I was on the Big Bang Theory, and then season 2 was. That was a little bit more, the time was split, not equally, but it was, I was definitely at Young Sheldon a lot more than I was the first season. And, it was great. I actually really enjoyed the single camera of it. I like the way, just the style, you're kind of making a little movie every week. And because I moved out to write movies, that's why I moved out. And so it was, it just kind of fits my sensibility a little bit more,
wow.
That style. And so, so that was season 2, and it was tiring mentally, because there were some days where I would start on one show and then get called over to the other one, and then go back to the other show and then get called back. So I'd kind of, some days where that didn't happen a lot, but when it did, it was a little mental whiplash to kind of, wrap your head around that, and factoring in that we were ending the Big Bang Theory that year.
Right.
So that was emotional and kind of on its own, but then adding it on top of the other one, it was a lot. So
did Chuck and Steve have the idea for the finale for Big Bang Theory for a while? Did it come up organically that final year?
Yeah, it kind of, and I should point out, when Young Sheldon started, Steve Millara went over to Young Sheldon primarily, and so Steve Holland became the showrunner the last 2 years of Big Bang Theory. So
got it.
It was, it was organic. We kind of knew vaguely where we were headed, what we wanted to happen. But even then you still have to figure out like, okay, what are the logistics of that? Like, what is this thing? And we have a science consultant, because we knew the idea was that Sheldon would end up winning the Nobel Prize, because we had talked him up as the smartest guy on the show, and so we kind of felt like it would be nice to pay that off.
You said that you knew. When did you guys kind of know that? For a while?
I'm trying to remember when. I mean, it was in the, and actually, I don't know. The conversations happened, that I wasn't a part of. So I think it was always an idea, and honestly, maybe season 10. I'm kind of making it up when the conversations were happening. But but
it was for a while that the guys kind of
but also we one of the things that we don't that one of the rules we kind of have is don't write to an ending, so which I actually think is a great rule, because if you get excited about an ending and then you start writing from the beginning and organically you're feeling you should go left, but the ending you're writing to is go right, you miss that opportunity to be like, no, this feels right, correct rather, to go left. So we, even though we kind of had that in mind, we had to be open to we can't just steer the ship that way if it doesn't feel right, but through the process of the writing the season, it felt like, no, this is the right thing to do.
You've mentioned several times that you really enjoyed writing for single camera.
Yeah.
What are the unique differences between the two for multi versus single camera that you've noticed?
I mean, there's many actually. To me, the main, not the main one, but so for instance, on the multicam, you have an audience, and that audience laughs, hopefully, when a joke is said.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, and so, but that means that if you, on the page, if you have 3 jokes right in a row, and the rhythm is joke 1, joke 2, joke 3, but joke 1 happens and then there's a laugh. Then joke 2 happens, not really a laugh, because you kind of needed that rhythm of like 1, 2, but the laughter gets in the way of that. So you are that limits what you can do on the page, because you have to anticipate how the audience will react. And there is cinematic things that we can't do on the Big Bang Theory or on a multicam, which is music doesn't really come into play very much. And there are kind of the hybrid shows like a How I Met Your Mother who can kind of do that a little more, because they don't have an audience. But even then, they still do interject the laughs, kind of in between them. You can't get away with like a subtle joke on in front of an audience of 250 people, because you need them to laugh, and a very subtle thing. And then I like subtle jokes. I like things that slide under the radar that not everyone's gonna laugh at, but if you catch it, it's great. Like Bottle Rocket is one of my favorite movies, and I think that's a movie where some people could watch that and not even laugh once, but like if you're watching it closely, you will laugh a lot, and it's great. But it's not going to make an audience of 250 people laugh. And you can, even a reaction, like we end a lot of scenes of on Young Sheldon where someone just can react with a funny expression, and that's not going to make 250 people laugh. So,
right.
So there's just, it's just the more cinematic things you can do on the single camera, which I enjoy a lot.
Such a clever idea to take that story of Sheldon. I don't, you couldn't do that for every character, but that character is the right character to follow, to go back and see him as a little boy. It's a very clever show.
Yeah, no, Steve and Chuck, and Jon Favreau directed the pilot. So wow. he was a key component of that too. But they I think they really did a great job.
And was it Jim Parsons' idea originally, Jeremy, and he went to Chuck on it, or
yeah,
other way around?
I think from what I know, he was like, hey, does this sound interesting? And Chuck was like, that does sound interesting. And so, and it, because Chuck is Chuck, it happened very quickly and very organically and easily. And they did a great job casting it. And I mean, the cast is amazing. And they really found a good tone, I think. So
what do you do when because obviously you're super busy all the time, working 9 to 10 months with just the hiatus of a couple of months we talked about earlier. Are you yourself, are you still writing specs on the side? Are you still, what are you writing, or what kind of writing do you do that isn't for your shows?
I used to write a lot on my own. So I, especially, before I got promoted to writer on Big Bang, I was, that's what, if you want to write, you have to write scripts and try to, pass them around. And so I was working on that, and nothing I wrote ever did anything. No spec. No one bought anything. I got a manager off of one, and some did okay in like some screenplay competitions, but no, they were small. And I didn't win anything. But I submitted into all like the Warner Brothers workshops and all those kind of things, and never got in. So, but I, kept writing.
Go ahead. I know you're wanting to say it. So yeah. Tell them who else you submitted to and didn't get it.
Yeah. So I also applied to Act One years and years ago. I did not get in. So I
wasn't charged back then. Okay, I wasn't.
And it was right not to accept me. I believe in my resume, or in my application rather. I think I wrote that the greatest screenplay ever written actually would be like the as broadcast of Robert Altman's Nashville, which is mostly ad-libbed. I mean, obviously, like Joan Tewksbury wrote a script, and that is the movie, but like Robert Altman also lets people just ad-lib and characters, whatever. Exactly. And because which is the most pompous thing to say. It's terrible. Like, so they weren't wrong in not accepting me, but I did apply to Act One. I did not get in. But then, when I got promoted, I was like, I'm a writer on this, the #1 comedy on TV. Like, I need to write a big comedy feature. Like, people will, it'll be very easy for me to sell a screenplay because I'm a writer on this show with this credit. That turns out not to be true, not even close. And so basically I wrote a feature comedy on my own, and I, with the job, and, I have a wife and 2 kids, and they were little at this time. I would drop the kids off at school at 8, and then I would write from 8:30 to 10 on my own thing, and then go to work. And then when the kids were down for the night, then I'd write more. Not every night, but that's when I would do my writing, kind of before work, and then after the kids were asleep. And I worked hard on it, and I was very proud of the script, and nothing happened with it. Absolutely nothing happened with it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And so I started on another script, and I was fried. I couldn't come up with anything. I hit a wall, and, and I really felt at peace. And I felt like, honestly, this is a Christian podcast, so I'll say it. I felt like God was saying, you're good. You don't need to do this. Like, you have a job, focus on your family, enjoy it. And it kind of was around the same time. Tony Hale, we go to the same church, and in conversations with him, he had said, and he actually wrote a kid's book about it, the Archibald's Next Big Thing, about not enjoying where you are presently. And he was, I think he was looking back on when he was on Arrested Development, how he was just thinking like this is great, but what's next? Like, how can I capitalize off this? And actually my brother sent me an excerpt from B.J. Novak, the Office writer and actor, his memoir, I think. And this is, my brother I don't know why he sent it to me, but I'm glad he did. And it was basically saying, looking back on his years on The Office, he wished he had just enjoyed it instead of trying to capitalize, the same kind of a thing. And so I really felt like that is what I should be doing, is enjoying this show, enjoying my family, my kids at this time. And so I didn't put pressure on myself to write on my own. And then I was like, I'll take a few months off. And that lasted several years of not writing really on my own. But now I'm kind of dipping my toe back into it. So, because I'm incredibly fortunate to have this job, the job that lasted, all the years in The Big Bang Theory that led into Young Sheldon. I understand I'm very, very fortunate to be in that position, but, and I've dabbled, like I've always kicking around ideas and stuff, but that is, so that's where I am on writing my own things.
The process of writing for you,
mm-hmm.
was it always a, an enjoyable experience that just like you just had to write, you just had to sit down and get stuff out of you? Or was it always really hard work and you had to really discipline yourself to sit down? And I'm just curious, like now that you've been doing it as a professional for a while now, how, if at all, it's changed for you?
It's a great question. And I have a lot of answers. So let me see if I can rattle them off. I think, so I just heard, so Fuller Studio, I don't know if they actually have some great stuff, not to plug something completely different, but
they're our friends. It's okay.
Spiritual film related things. The people at Fuller Studio are doing really cool things. They had interviews with Paul Schrader and Scott Derrickson, and those are two that I just recently watched. And Scott Derrickson, so the Doctor Strange director and co-writer, he explained it really well, where one of his writing partners, he's like, he is a natural born writer, where he wakes up and he writes for hours and hours and hours, and he does it every day and he loves it. And Scott was talking about himself, saying, he's like, I'm not, like, I put it off and it's a grind. And I think that is more me. I'm not necessarily a natural born writer. I wasn't the kid who wrote stories and just enjoyed that. Like, I was out playing basketball in my driveway. I wasn't, in my room writing stories. But, I kind of became interested in movies, and to be like, oh, maybe I could do this. And it is, some days I am a natural born writer where I can, like, it's just, this is great and easy, and like I get it and this is great, and then the next day I'm stuck and I don't know what to do and I hate it and I'm questioning everything, and which I think is most writers. But I do enjoy the writing process. It's not super easy for me. The other thing, and I think this is where I'm very grateful, and I feel like God was kind of kind to me in this, is if I didn't get promoted on The Big Bang Theory, and it wasn't my job to go, when you're in a writer's room with writers who are very good and have been doing this for a long time, you're in class every single day. You are learning, even when you're a writer's assistant, you are like, if it's a hard job to get, if you can find yourself a writer's assistant job in a room with other TV writers or whatever, I guess TV writers, you can't help but learn how to do it and how it works, how TV shows are made. So I have been fortunate. I'm not necessarily a self-starter where if I were unemployed, I don't know that I would be doing the homework of like how a TV show is and like trying to do this, but I was just fortunate enough to be in a place where I was being forced to learn how to do this job. And even after I got promoted, it was like I'm still learning. Like still to this day, I'm learning every day that I go in. And I don't know, I think we know people who work really, really hard and are hustling, and are doing a good job of it. And that's not how I am. I enjoy writing and write a script, if it feels right, but like I'm not the guy who's like, I need to hustle, and I'm not good at it. I'm not good at networking. I'm not good at, I just don't know how to do it. So I've been very fortunate to kind of be forced into that growth, which I probably wouldn't have gotten on my own.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Do you feel like you have changed at all as a writer? Do you feel like you have, I mean, I'm sure you've become a better writer, but has the process of writing changed for you in any way?
It's so interesting because we write the job of it is writing with other people. But so I think the writing with other people has made me a better writer on my own. And I honestly think when I am writing on my own, it actually makes me better at the job. So they kind of feed off of each other a little bit. I will say for working on Young Sheldon and having it be a little more of a little movie set every week, I'm finding that I enjoy the production and I enjoy the editing a lot. I'm finding I'm enjoying different aspects of the process, and writing is still in there, but it is now I'm enjoying the other things just as much, which is great because it's kind of fun to grow in these other areas that weren't necessarily at the forefront of my mind. So
no. Tell us a little bit about kind of your journey before you got here. I'm curious about what made you into the guy now. Like, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer, and when did that become like a real thing to you instead of just this kind of like pie in the sky kind of thought or dream? When was that an actual thing? Like, I'm going to pursue that. Like, where did that come from?
Well, I think it was a pie in the sky dream up until I got promoted on The Big Bang Theory, like honestly. But I did not grow up writing stories. I was way into sports. Like I was outside playing basketball in my driveway. I wasn't writing. It didn't occur to me. And it didn't even occur to me that was a job, that the in the credits of the TV shows I watched as a kid, that these were people who worked on it. Like, I know a lot of people who are writers are like, when I was 7, I was like, that's what I wanted to do. And like, that's not at all. I didn't have that reaction back then. But I did, all I watched as a kid was sitcoms. So, and I liked movies, what I could do in my spare time, I could just turn on the TV and,
Which were the ones you would watch that you loved the most?
Oh man, 227.
Yes, 227. Yes.
Until when Regina King was on The Big Bang Theory, so that was actually a big deal for me to meet her.
I will spare you. I could sing the theme song to you right now, but I will spare you and everyone else listening. So.
No, 227, and then I think it was like 227 and Amen were back to back on Saturday nights.
Yep, NBC Saturday night. Yep.
Yeah, but Growing Pains, Alf, Hogan's Family, the Hogan Family.
Golden Girls? Were you a Golden Girl?
Yeah, Golden Girls. It was a little racy. formula.
Yes, it was a little racy. Yes.
And then, like Night Court was like the racy show.
Yes.
But no, and then it was like Drew Carey show and Friends and Seinfeld and Cheers when, I was, it was to catch the later seasons when I was old enough to kind of watch those. And it's interesting, there's a little tangent. So The Simpsons, what I'm realizing is like, that is the show. That without that show, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. And I'm watching it now with my kids. We're watching it as a family. And they're about the age I was when I started watching it. And I'm realizing, I don't know if I know the joke is coming because I remember it, or if I've been trained now as a comedy writer that should be the joke that's coming. But I don't, I kind of, some I know for sure I remember, and other ones I'm like, oh, that's right. So I don't know, but I know like that sense of humor of The Simpsons is, that is why I think I'm doing what I'm doing.
And is that because you think you just watched it so much that it informed much of, yeah?
Yeah, I watched it a lot, and I think I just responded to it. Like that humor, I was like, oh, this is my sense of humor. And it's really fun because now my son, especially, he's 12, we laugh really hard at the exact same things, and it's really fun.
That's great. I love that. That's great.
But again, growing up, it's not like I watched The Simpsons and was like, that's what I want to do. I just watched it. And then when I was 15, I saw Pulp Fiction. And that kind of changed everything for me, where I was, that was hugely influential. I didn't know you could structure a movie like that, or write a movie like that, or make a movie like that. And that opened the door to Scorsese and The Godfather and gangster movies, and then dramas and Taxi Driver, the whole thing.
I love the story that you tell about how you got the job on the show. I think it was before Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. I guess I can back up a little bit. So I was a PA on a couple shows, production assistant, got promoted to writer's assistant, got on a show on the CW, a comedy called The Game, was the writer's assistant there. Actually got a freelance episode in the third season of it. So that was my first actual, Hollywood writing credit. Was writing an episode for them. And then that show got canceled. So I jumped over to a friend of mine who, the very first show I was on, he was a writer on it. And then he had made a couple pilots. And then this one actually went to series. It was called Hank, which was with Kelsey Grammer. And the hours they weren't like, you can work on a show that goes to 2 or 3 in the morning or worse even. And it wasn't that bad, but when we had a 1-year-old and my wife was pregnant, so even if it's till 9 or 10, it might as well be till 3 in the morning, because I wasn't home and they were on their own. And it was, it was tough. It was tough on all of us. So that show actually got canceled. I think we shot 10 episodes. They aired 5, and then it was canceled. So we were unemployed with a 1-year-old and a baby. You can edit this out too, Jimmy.
But it's good though. Thanks for being vulnerable. I think people need to hear the story.
Yeah. So on paper that seems terrible, but for us it was amazing. Because we were a family again, essentially, and it was great. So it was very clear in that moment that I should quit TV. And as I had said earlier, I moved out to write movies. So I was like, okay, I tried TV. It didn't work. It was too hard on the family. It was too hard on all of us. So I'll stay home after our daughter is born. Like I'll, ride it out till our daughter's born. And then, after she's a couple months old, my wife can go back to work because she was the stay-at-home mom. And I'll write movies again. So that was our plan. And we, because we had money from the freelance script I wrote and I could collect unemployment. So we, that was our choice. And we all felt great about it. And I wrote things on my own. But, a year later, my wife didn't get a job because the place she used to work at, we thought there was a job waiting for her there, and they ended up not being there. And then she interviewed for 2 or 3 other jobs that she was overqualified for, and they wouldn't hire her. And so we were quickly running out of money as the kind of the year was approaching. And then I had gotten a friend knew someone at the Big Bang Theory, and they needed a writer's assistant to fill in for 2 weeks. And so that's when, that's how I got at the Big Bang Theory. Is just literally as money was running out, I got a call. And then, if I had started even a week later, like we would have been a little bit in trouble. And, and I need to clarify, like we have family who could have supported us. Like we wouldn't have been homeless, but this is just
Sure.
where we were. And, and we didn't necessarily want to lean on them, but we weren't going to be in, dire straits. But it was a stressful time because it is, we had to think like, what are we doing with our lives? We have 2 kids and live in LA, and it's expensive here and we're not working. Like, how are we going to do this? And, I don't think we ever thought, like, cause I'm from Michigan, and I don't think we ever thought to move back. Like we still felt like we needed to be out here, but we just didn't know how it was going to be. And so, so that was season 4 of the Big Bang Theory. And then that gave us insurance, that gave us all that stuff. And then, so it was kind of weird to quit TV, but then kind of get pulled back. And I will say, even all up until that point, it really felt like God was keeping me in multicam, because I was trying to leave. It wasn't necessarily what I moved out here for. Like I moved out to do dramatic movies, and I found myself in TV comedy as an assistant. And we have a mutual friend who worked at Dexter, and I tried to go there 2 or 3 times, and it never worked out. I actually interviewed to be Paul Thomas Anderson's assistant on, for There Will Be Blood. I didn't interview with him as one of the producers, but I didn't get that, which is good. That would have been, months and months in Texas with my wife, because we didn't have kids then. But but I kept trying to leave, but it became clear that, to me at least, that God was saying, nope, stay in multicam. And I had to just trust it, to be like, okay, I don't get it, but I will stay. And then even after I quit for a year, it was like, nope, you're back in multicam. And so again, just had to trust that. So
not to get all Barbara Walters on you, but why does that story make you emotional? What is it? Was it the whole idea of, could you talk a little bit about this, the whole idea of success versus in the business versus family?
Yeah, well, then just to clarify, I get emotional at everything, so it doesn't take much for me. Honestly, I'm probably going to get emotional again, but the moment that I didn't specify in that story is the day the show got canceled. I came home at like 5, and I had dinner with my wife and son, and my wife just started crying. And basically she was like, this is what it could be like. So, excuse me, that is the moment that I knew I needed to quit.
Yeah. Is it and your wife, by the way, people don't know her on this podcast, but I have the pleasure of knowing her. She's an amazing human being. And
yes.
But by the way, she's way funnier than you.
Oh, I am the least funny person in my house. My wife is funnier than me. There's no question about it.
But I think that this is good, man. And I thank you for being vulnerable, because a lot of people that want to get into this business, they don't understand what it means to count the cost when it comes to family. Like they don't, like this town, if you're not careful, this industry can destroy families, it can destroy marriages, it can destroy relationships. And it's a real thing that all of us out here, we have to go through. And so I think, thank you for being involved, because I think people need to hear that. Like the sometimes silent and not so silent victims of the business out here are oftentimes the spouses and the kids.
Yeah. And and not to like get on any kind of high horse, but like I know for my wife and I, it's like how many movies and stories and things in real life that you need to see of people who worked so hard, and then at the end they're like, oh no, the thing that mattered was my family, but now it's too late. Like I feel like that's such a recurring theme in many things. And so it's like, well, why would we do that? Like we know the ending of that movie, like so let's just avoid that. And it's great, like my wife and I have always just been on the same page with all of that, and which has been great. So very it helps when you have someone who kind of has your back like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you like to watch? What's some of the, where do you get inspiration? I know you're a big Criterion guy. Where do you what are some of your favorite films? Where do you find inspiration? What all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, because people ask, oh, what's your favorite movie? And it was always kind of like, there's so many. But for me, I think I can safely say The Tree of Life is, I can put that at the top.
Love that film. Love it.
It just deals, and I understand that it's not for everyone, and some people hate it, and some people are like, what are the dinosaurs? Why are there dinosaurs? And, whatever. But for me, it felt like it was made specifically for me, because it came out at a time when I don't know, the spiritual doubt or crisis, what I would actually call it, but just specifically the size of the universe kind of freaked me out. I'm like, why is this universe so big? And like, why are we so small? And, I think that movie actually just really spoke to me. And it's like, I have two brothers, and it's about, three boys growing up, and the mom and dad dynamic is very similar. Like it was like, if it was made for one person, it's definitely me. And so I think even like Leonard Maltin in his review, and I don't think he loved it, but he was kind of like, what does the beginning of the universe have to do with a family in Texas? And I was like, no, that's the whole point. It all has to, like, that's what it is. Like it just dealt with existence and faith, and I don't know. So that movie for me is, I put that at the top of my list.
I think I could make the argument that he's our greatest Christian filmmaker.
Sure.
And that film is one of the reasons. I'm not the generation that he's portraying, the Brad Pitt character, right? But my dad kind of was, or kind of in between, actually, maybe a little bit. But some of the images in that film are so deeply spiritual to me. It's one of the more haunting films I've ever seen. I loved it.
I've actually not seen a Terrence Malick movie that he's made after it, because I like, it's not fair, but like I'm kind of like, I don't know, he did it. He did it with Tree of Life. I think I'm good, but I need to give the other ones.
This most recent one, Hidden Life, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard really, really good stuff about it.
Yeah, same.
You're from Michigan, and you're a Michigander. Is that what they call you, Michigander?
Michigander, yeah.
And so you're a big fan of Bob Seger.
Yes.
And I remember one of the first scripts of yours I ever read was a script about Bob Seger, wasn't it?
Yes, not about the person, but it was a heavily themed, Bob Seger themed script.
Yes, and your dream would be for Jeff Daniels to make that film, so you could do something with Jeff Daniels and Bob Seger. That would be your ultimate dream.
That was, yes, the two big Michigan entertainment guys. That was the goal. I mean, I was 25 when I wrote it. That was 15 years ago. But it's funny. I actually, every couple of years, I'll go back and I'll read it, and I was like, I don't know, there's something to this thing. But
I thought it was. I remember liking it. I think if you made a film with Jeff Daniels, Bob Seger's music, and Chris Webber, would you retire? Would you just retire after that?
Yeah, that's it. That all the Michigan dreams come true there. Yeah. No, yeah, it was. We'll see if I dust that off at any point. But it is one that I'm proud of.
How would you explain to people who they're Christians and they're interested in, writing for television or just coming out here and joining the business? And how would you describe what it's like to be a person of faith in the industry? Have you had, has it been mostly positive experience for you where you've been able to build relationships with people, or have you had negative experiences? How would you describe that to someone?
I mean, I think it's not much different than if you went to I went to Grand Valley State University in Michigan, just a state school, and it's not much different than that. And it's in kind of the Bible Belt of Michigan, so you could find more Christians maybe at that school, but I feel like it's kind of any secular job anywhere in the world. You're either, it's not much different to that, in my experience, at least. I haven't had, it's been fairly easy for me to be outed as a Christian, because it's oh, where did you meet your wife? Oh, I met at church. Or what did you do this weekend? I went to church. It just kind of comes up, and people, I've had no one, I haven't had any negative experiences of people treating me differently because of my faith. So that's been my experience. So I can't speak for everyone, because I'm sure other people have had that. But and you work with people who completely disagree and have completely different either faiths or no faith at all, and it's but it's not this unholy town that we're living in. It's kind of it's just it's just a business, just like anywhere else, and you're going to find other Christians there, and you're going to not find Christians. So it's I don't know. I wouldn't be scared of it if people are hesitant to come out. I think I've been going to church out here ever since I moved, and my wife and my kids, we still go to church, and you can find there's lots of churches to choose from. You can raise a family kind of just how you would back in Michigan.
How would you say that your faith helps you in what you do?
I think it gives me a lot of peace to know that this job is great, but it's not everything. It's just a job. And I've been very fortunate, and I'm very glad to have it, and I hope I can continue to do it. But if for me, who believes in a God that is, looking out for me and is protecting me and knows what's best for me, that gives me an incredible amount of peace in a town that is not necessarily filled with peace, where projects can fall apart and people can, maybe take advantage of you, or, you can kind of get screwed over, which does happen. There's been a lot of instances where it's kind of oh, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know. And then just to be you know what? It's okay. If it doesn't happen, then that is probably for the best. And, you know, and to back up, so I started in the mailroom out here at CBS. I actually started with an internship at the Young and The Restless, and then got into the mailroom in the same building at CBS. And I was in the mailroom for 3 years, and which is pretty long. People were there for a couple months, and then they got a job somewhere in the building, and then kind of, you know, moved on.
You were very good. You were very good at
I was very good at delivering that mail. But I applied for many, many jobs within the building. And I was super, super depressed that I didn't get any of them. And I was like, one job I kept going for, it was actually in the contestant awards department for The Price is Right. And I kept trying to get this job, and the guy actually who was hiring, he kept calling me to be like, you're my second choice, but there's someone who's just a better fit. I'm so sorry. You're great, but it's not going to work out. And that happened, I think, 3 times with that job. And I was super depressed. And actually that depression led into the Bob Seger script, because it's about a midlife crisis of an auto factory worker. So I was able to kind of take that frustration and depression and turn it into a script. But however, looking back, if I'd gotten even one of those jobs, my whole life would have been very different. And those jobs would have led to non-creative jobs, and that are fine, but like I could have just been stuck behind, you know, like I applied to be the assistant to an accountant at CBS, and like that's not what I moved out to do, but I was like, oh, it's more money than the mailroom, that'll be great. But looking back, it's like I'm so glad that I didn't get any of those. And you know, I just had to kind of trust that God knew what he was doing, and not, you know, that those jobs didn't work out. And I, you know, continue to see that up until now.
That's awesome. Well, Jeremy Howe, I want to tell you, man, you're an amazing human being. Thank you for being a good friend to me for so many years. And thank you for, we've known each other for, it's been almost 20 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been out here 18 now. So, and we met very, very early on. So yeah.
Well, thank you for being a good friend, and thank you for being a good friend to Act One. And I just want to tell you, you're an amazing human being. I love your heart. I love just who you are as a man. I love the way you love your wife and your kids. And I'm just grateful for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
I want to make a tradition in the Act One podcast that we pray for our guests. Would it be okay if I prayed for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for this time today. Thank you so much for the chance to be able to talk to Jeremy and learn more about him and his journey. And thank you for his wisdom and his insight and his humility. And God, thank you for his faith and his passion for you. And God, I just pray a blessing upon his life. I pray that you would bless his marriage, his relationship with his children. I pray that you would bless his relationship with his coworkers. And God, I just pray that you would use Jeremy as an instrument of your grace and your love and your truth in this business. And thank you for using him up to now. God, we continue to pray for those who are going through difficult times. We pray for our country, we pray for our world. And we trust all of this to you. And we pray this in Jesus' name, and your promises we stand. Amen. Thanks for listening to the Act One podcast. To learn more about our programs, visit us online at actoneprogram.com.